This is a badge that a lot of people wear, and it's not a good thing. So the too busy thing is a rationalisation. It's a personal rationalisation. Oh, I'm flat out. I'm too busy. I can't possibly do that. It creates uncertainty. So for the people that are too busy up here, it creates uncertainty down here. And what the people down here want is certainty. So what you want is certainty from the person above you or the people above you. You definitely want certainty. And too busy creates uncertainty. Therefore, too busy is a bad thing, not a good thing. And it's very common for people to say, oh, yeah, I'm absolutely, how are you? You know, I'm flat out. Oh, I'm flat out as well. You know, we're both flat out, yeah? What they should be saying is, I'm totally disorganized. Yeah, I get 80,000 a year salary, which is pretty good, and I'm just completely disorganized. That's what they should be saying, because that's what they are saying when they're saying I'm too busy. So this was a guy I was helping. So I was helping this guy, and I could see a train, you know, heading towards him and his career. And I sent him quite a short message saying, you know, we really need to talk, you know, as soon as you possibly can. And he sent me that text. And he had time, I hasten to add, to change the screen to put that slash in. Can you see that? So we had enough time to do that. More urgent, immediate things to worry about this week. Yeah? And 2 weeks after this happened, this guy lost his job. Yeah? Now, it wasn't his fault that he was too busy. He was caught up in an environment created by the other people in his organisation. And so that's not a rationalisation, that's the truth. So behavioural science says that behaviour is contingent on the environment, the room, and the people within the room. So the living room at home, and you, and the children, and the TV, and you know, the air conditioning unit, and everything all accumulates up to the environment, and it's that drives behaviour. So if you want to get your young children to go to bed, and you ask them to go to bed with the TV on, yeah, and that's probably a bad thing, and they probably won't take much notice of you. However, if you change the environment and switch the TV off, and then ask them to go to bed, that increases the chances of them going to bed. Okay, that's a very short lesson in behavioural science. So what we're supposed to be doing is focusing on wealth creation. What you're supposed to be doing is focusing on wealth creation, and what I mean by that is getting the economy of Christchurch back. At the moment, it seems to be straggled all around the outside of Christchurch, and some of it seems to be doing pretty well as well. But it's supposed to be, you know, in Christchurch, and it's not back there yet, obviously. And loss aversion is focusing on not losing what you've got. So loss aversion is looking at expense claims and, you know, mileage claims, and looking at claims, looking at invoices and checking things and making sure that you're not losing something. And wealth creation is, okay, of the opportunities that are out there, are we maximising all of our opportunities? Are we doing all of the things we can be doing to create maximum wealth, to finish the project? Are we focusing on things that are diverting us from finishing the project, or are we focused on finishing the project? Yeah? Whoever's doing Ferrymead Bridge is not focusing on the project, because I've been looking at that for a long time. You know, when the Allies went across the Rhine, they went over those, put those bridges back pretty quick. You know, somebody said to me, 16 weeks easy. So the person that is in charge isn't here, is it? Are they? Well done. Okay, so I think you're focusing on too much on loss aversion and not enough on wealth creation. So aseptic focus, it's a nice phrase. It's Sir Ken Robinson's phrase, who's a great speaker. If you can get him here, it's very funny. Interesting, I mean. Aseptic focus is when you and the organisation aren't focused on the right things. The analogy is the guy that drinks 10 pints of beer a night and goes to see his doctor and says, you know, I keep going to the toilet all through the night. And the doctor says, well, I'll refer you to a kidney specialist. He goes to see the kidney specialist, who says, so what's the problem? He says, I go to the toilet 5 times a night. He says, well, tell me about your habits. I drink 10 pints of beer a night. And he says, well, drink 10 whiskies instead. Well, won't that affect my liver? Yeah, but I'm a kidney specialist. That's aseptic focus. And it's very common, and it's very easy to observe. So tomorrow when you go back to work, this is one of the things you can actually observe. Why on earth are they talking about this when this is happening? You know, this is what we should be talking about, but everybody seems to be rummaging around in the detail over here. And so we're tuned to responding aggressively when people tell us things we don't like. So as humans, that's what we're tuned to. There are a number of things as humans that we're tuned to that aren't a lot of help when if you're a project manager or you're building projects or you want to create wealth. So our instincts aren't that great. If somebody says to you something that they feel strongly about that they think you need to know, then you must always say, thank you very much for telling me. You know, you can go away and ignore what they've said, sure, but if you want to receive feedback from people, then you need to reinforce it every time you receive it. And our instincts don't have us doing that, really. Our instincts have us responding badly to feedback, which is why there's so little feedback around. So finding out what everybody else is, talking about when they're talking about us when we're not there is a good thing. And creating an environment where that happens is quite hard, because people's natural instinct is to not tell you the stuff that they really should be telling you. And I coach a number of senior people in organizations, and I'm forever saying to people, okay, so the very people who you are totally dependent on for your success, you treat badly. Excellent. This is going to be a really long coaching relationship, because the people that you totally depend on for your own success, you need to be treating very well indeed, yeah? Better than clients, in fact, yeah? So micromanagement is another instinctive thing. So, all right, well, he hasn't done it, so I'll have to do it, and I'll have to do that, and I'll have to do this. There was a great paper in the 70s called Who's Got the Monkey by a guy called Bill Onken, and it's a great paper. I can send it to you if you want. And it just talks about the downsides of the manager doing everything themselves and not simply saying, doing the right thing with the people and creating an environment where the people below them in the organization can be successful. Because that's the job of a leader, is to create an environment for other people to be able to do their jobs, not do their jobs for them. And I've got 2 or 3 of these on my radar screen at the moment, one quite a famous one, whose name I won't mention. And these are people who are hugely successful and can do the jobs of at least 6 people, but they are very aggressive and they want to be forgiven for all of their out-of-control, egotistical, lunatic behaviour because they're successful. It's very short-term. There were a lot of these in high up in banks before the recession, famous names, and also at Enron. And this is a bad thing. So talented people who are just unchecked type A aggressives need to be ganged up and sorted out. You can sort them out, actually. They're not impossible. It's not impossible to sort these people out. But they have to be ganged up on, and they have to be picked off, one little behaviour at a time. I saw a great situation of this where there was a client, a person who was being a bit too kind of controlling over a group of contractors. So a group of contractors, client person playing God over contractors, and the client person was the only one that wanted the exhibition centre. However, it wasn't going particularly to plan because everybody was straight into loss aversion because of the bullying that was coming down from the client. So it was one of these self-fulfilling kind of bad client situations which you read about sometimes. Edinburgh Tram's an excellent one to read up on. These people got together and said, okay, every time he says the word contract, we'll all look out of the window. And so this guy said contract, and they all glanced out of the window, and he noticed, but he noticed that it happened, but didn't quite, so carried on talking. And this went on for quite a while. Every time he said the word contract, everybody glanced out the window. And then because it got funny, everybody started laughing and glancing out of the window. And at some point, some brave soul told him that, look, because you're impossible, we had to make life, a bit more acceptable for ourselves. So we've devised this, you say the key word and we'll all look out the window. And he went, bananas. But then after a bit, you know, shock, anger, fear, disbelief, acceptance and regret, he finally got there and said, okay, all right, let's talk about how we can go forward, you know, constructively. So they made a way of changing the environment so that the lunatic recognized that he was, you know, and he never said, yes, I'm a lunatic, but he did recognize that it was counterproductive what he was doing. So those kind of things are good things to do. So I want everybody tomorrow when they're in a meeting, if they heard the word contract, just glance out the window. Or if there's somebody in the room today that you know and you hear the word contract, just glance at them. Yeah. I'm not just, you know, suggesting mischief for mischief's sake. Leaders who go and see supervisors and don't see managers on the way, or managers who go and talk to the workforce and bypass the supervisors, that's called rank jumping, and it's very destructive. Yeah. Okay, nobody does that here, I could tell by the looks on your faces, so I'll just move on. You can create the conditions for honest feedback, but there's a very, very easy way of doing it. And the easy way of doing it is get some wireless response devices. So you put a question up on PowerPoint and you let people vote. And nobody knows who voted what. We could have done it today. Maybe if we do this next year, we can do that. We could demonstrate it here. But it's just phenomenal, the difference between asking people whether they're happy with what you've said, because everybody says yes, and actually having a vote on something. And a number of people that have done our courses they're having their meetings now, and they test for knowledge at the end of the meeting. And if you're prepared to do that, it's a bit depressing because you discover that only 50% of the people actually understood what was said in the meeting. Then you have to go back, yeah? But there are a number of companies now who do safety inductions, for example, and instead of getting the workforce to sign that they attended, they test for knowledge, and if you don't get 100% right, you do the, you know, they do the induction again. 20-minute induction, 10-minute test. You have to get all of it right. In the driving test in the UK, you have to get all of the written part right now. So it's a way of putting consequences in the way of learning. But getting anonymous feedback means that you discover, you know, the truth about what it was that you just assumed. Because if you're presiding over a meeting, it's very easy to assume that everybody understood what you said. And you know, if I tested you at the end of this talk on stuff that I'd said, you know, average scores, 30, 40%. Looking at you, maybe 60, 70. And we do plenty of these. I'm not such a, online surveys are, nobody believes that it's anonymous. You know, you fill in an online survey and you think, nah, I'm gonna be cautious about how I answer this. Whereas with the anonymous survey, with the voting buttons, you can get people to swap them around after every question, so nobody could track it. You know, it couldn't be tracked, and we get a 50% shift to the left, going from online surveys to truly anonymous surveys. It's worth doing. This is a genuine one, and this one highlighted that there wasn't that much objective feedback on work performance from managers, and so I sit down with my manager each month and agree my priorities was very low. So people were saying, no, I don't, even though the organisation was saying, yes, we do. This is what we do, the organisation was saying, and the staff were saying, no, we don't. So it's worth getting, yeah, feedback. So what could you do now? As I said at the start, sustainable change shaped over time. You can have a sense of urgency like an earthquake, and the Harris fencing can come out and you can cover things up, and you know everybody, you know, has that shot of adrenaline. But sustainable change has to be shaped over time, and that means that each part of what you want to change has to be dealt with one at a time, and not many people have the patience to do that, even though that's the only successful way you can do it. It's the same for, you know, for your children. It's the same for getting them to do their homework. It's the same for, you know, all interactions between humans. If you want change, you have to look at things as shaping steps, one at a time, not everything. So you could all write down, if you could wave a magic wand, what would I change in the workplace? You could all write stuff down now. Yeah? If I could change the behaviour of the following 5 people who I can think of in my head right now, what would I have them do? Yeah? You could all do that. Yeah? And if we could wave a magic wand and all that would happen, then the world would be a better place tomorrow. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, so we have to take these things, yeah, one step at a time. If you want to lose weight, there are 2 things that you can do. You can eat less and you can exercise more. Losing weight is a result, and the behaviours are the food that you put in your mouth and the exercise that you do. And all of the other results are the same. So building a project is just the same. It's an intake of food and it's exercise. That's what it is. Yeah. What the research says about behaviours is that getting all of the simple stuff right is the first thing to do. So responding to emails within 24 hours, responding to phone calls within the day, responding to text messages, you know, all that simple communication stuff is very, very important. And the people in the really high performing projects and companies all do that all the time. So all of those people working in high performing organizations and are responding to and manage their emails properly. Let's face it, if you can't manage emails, how can you possibly manage anything else? Yeah, because they're dead easy. Oh, I get 100 a day. Why? You know, have you lifted a finger to do anything about it? No, is usually the response. I get 500 a day. Well, you're an idiot then. You know, you have to go and talk to the people that are sending these things and say, don't send me emails like this. Don't copy me in. There are any number of things you can do to manage emails. It's not a hard thing to do. You don't need a university degree to do it. But it's that too busy thing. People get themselves into these kind of cycles of dysfunction, and then they use it as a justification for them to be disorganized. So there is no reason why you can't, you know. I wrote to the ex-Supreme Commander of NATO on Saturday, and he wrote back to me on Sunday. Yeah, and he's dead busy. So here's some stuff. These are things that have been said. A lot of them were said to me whilst I was working for some great leaders. Yeah. So, and could you see yourself saying this to the people that work for you, or the people that are working in the contractors for you, or designers, or whatever it is you do? Yeah, I want you to know that I would really like to be effective helping you in your current role. I want to help you. So if you think you're drowning, let's talk about it and see how we can fix it. So if you do get 200 emails a day, let's fix that. You know, let's sit down and figure out how we can do this. So do you need any help coaching your people? So coaching is helping people be as good at your job as you are. Yeah? So and can I help simplify things for you? Every single one of the great leaders I work for talked about simplicity all the time. They were forever, you know, if we're in a project review meeting or whatever, they would say, nah, just stop, you know, this is too complicated. I don't understand it and I'm really clever, you know. It's too complicated. You've got to simplify this. Yeah, you've allowed the process to get carried away. You know, you've allowed yourselves to get carried away with the process, and you've forgotten that people down there in the organisation have got to deliver this thing, and I don't understand it. So, I want you to know that being too busy is a bad thing. Yeah, could you see yourself saying that to somebody? It's so important. Few frowns there. Good frowning though. Good feedback for me. So this was said on an Enron job actually at Dabhol in India. The global construction manager stood up and said, "I want you to create a safe place for people to work. I don't care how much it costs." And I was quite surprised at hearing that. Hearing an executive say, "I don't care how much it cost," was a bit of a surprise for me. But if you think about it, what the guy was saying was, "I trust you. I want to make it very clear I don't want anybody to get hurt on this job. I don't care how much it costs. I trust you to do the right thing. Now do the right thing." It's a clarion call for you to do the right thing. That's what it is. So what do you think would improve the quality of your day, week, month? And you could answer that yourself, yeah? And you could ask your people the same thing. And I don't want you to fall for the meetings trap. We've got absolutely tons of data on dysfunction in meetings. Start late, finish late, no, people don't close out actions. Well, contractors close out about 90% of actions, designers close out about 60% of actions. These are just general across the board pieces of summary data that we've collected over 10 years. But designers always blame the client on the reason why they haven't closed out their actions, and clients are down at 30, 40%. So I don't know whether that's a norm here. 2 or 3 people in the room think it's a norm, yeah? Because they smiled and nodded and stuff. Wow, even more. So yeah, ironic, isn't it, that the client organisation is the worst at completing actions, and the client organisation is the only person that wants a building or a, you know, it's ironic, but that's how these things go. This guy, Jack Sheehan, I had the absolute privilege to work for him for 2 years. And he was the Supreme Commander of NATO, never solved people's problems. I used to go to him and say, oh, I'm having terrible trouble with whoever it was. And he'd say, oh, all right, great, okay, so what are you going to do? And I said, I've no idea, can you help me? And he'd say, well, let's sit down. Got any ideas? And I'd go, no, well, I've got all the time in the world. And eventually I'd think of something, and then something else, and then he'd say, okay, let me know how you get on. It's an interesting perspective, but that strong leadership is not solving people's problems. Strong leadership is being there, because he was there, I could always go and see him, but not solving the problem. That's great leadership. And it's counterintuitive. That's the thing, is that is what's counterintuitive. Because you've got to make sure that people keep bringing their problems to you so that you can be supportive and say, well, you know, have a think about a few things and go and try them out. Yeah, no, you know, let me know how you get on. Yeah, I care about the answer to this thing, but I'm not going to solve it for you. Never, ever, ever break the chain of command. God, this doesn't half happen a lot in construction organisations, particularly where directors arrive on site and then start talking to people, you know. Somebody on one of the projects that we were working on was a director who went straight to a steel fixer and started criticising him for whatever he was wearing. And this bloke kind of just told him to, yeah. And so then the director went and shouted to the agent, say, I was just telling that bloke over there, and he swore at me. You know. Well, what did you expect him to do? You know, you director, him steel. He works for a foreman, who works for the section engineer, who works for the agent, who works for me, who works. Do you know what I mean? Rank jumping is just bonkers. If you've got to have an establishment, then honour the establishment. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. He said to me, you just go out there and do your stuff. If you get close to the fence, I'll tell you. Yeah, this is Sheehan. So, and he came to see me one day and said, right, yeah, you're going right through the fence. Way past the other side. And there were lots and lots of pithy pieces of wisdom from him. He was very, very good at that. Very good at summarising things in one sentence. I would talk about some problem I was having with a group of people, and he'd say, yeah, you're like the priest standing outside the whorehouse. They're still going in, but you're just making them feel a little bit more guilty.
Howard, we'll finish up the questions at this stage. If I can maybe just ask one question of you, just to sort of close this, and then what we'll do is we'll duck down the back and have a drink, pull back the curtains. If there's 2 things we can take away from today, just to sort of bring it back down to a really simple sort of message, what 2 things would you suggest we do tomorrow to sort of have a meaningful change on how we lead?
Okay, the first thing you're not going to do is tomorrow write down what you did between 9 and 10, 10 and 11, 11 and 12, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. Write that, just like one sentence. If you do that, you will have a much better idea about what it is you're doing, because we filter out all of the stuff that we do in a day. We look back on the day and go, wonder what happened today. We rarely get in the car and go, wow, that was a great day. I set out to do the following things and I ticked every single one off. Yeah, we don't do that, and it's very easy to do. So you could observe yourself about what you do. And the other thing that I would suggest you do, which is also very easy to do, is just before you speak, when somebody says something to you, so our behaviour is shaped over time. So a culture or a culture within an organisation or even a family are called conditioned responses over time. Dave says something to me, I say something back. He changes what he's going to say to me because of what I said back. I change what I'm going to say to him because of what he said. So they're conditioned responses over time. So tomorrow you're at work, somebody says something, and you're about to say the usual thing you say in those circumstances. Just stop and think for 3 seconds and say something else. Say something different, yeah? And if you can do that, you will have diverted the environment in off into a different direction. And when I'm coaching people, I'm always desperate to just get them to just take 2 seconds and don't say the same stupid thing you said last time that other person said that. So there's 2 things. Write down what you do, and just reading it is really cognitive. If you just read what you did today, you'll go, what the hell did I do that for? You know, what's that there for? Yeah. And if you just don't say the same thing that you said last time and say something else, the environment will change. And if you can focus on those 2 things, even over a couple of weeks, your environment will have changed, and you'll go, hey, it's magic, you know. But it's not magic. It's very, very simple. Very, very simple, but it's not that easy, because you have to be consciously doing that for long enough for other people to change their responses to you. Then you've changed the environment. Yeah, how's that?
Bloody good. Hey, Howard, thank you so much. I'd just like to say thank you, and
okay.
Yeah, if we can join me in a round of applause, and we'll go and
yeah.
have a drink.
Thank you.